to the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank Deputy Special Coordinator Hadi for his briefing. Madam President, 1 week ago, the Security Council received a briefing calling for the urgent need for an immediate ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. Today, we have received another sobering briefing, which gives us a strong sense of déjà vu. Since October of last year, the Security Council has held numerous meetings with countless briefings. For more than 13 months, we have experienced in this chamber endless déjà vu. However, in the repetition of meetings, we are also able to identify a clear tendency, the voice of the international community, to end the bloodshed. Last week, the 10 elected members of the Security Council co-penned a draft resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, in parallel with an immediate and unconditional release of hostages. These 10 members of the Council, all regionally, politically, and culturally different from each other, shared the same principled voice, demonstrating the common demand of the international community. Thus, we believe that even though the draft resolution was not adopted, the message that we collectively strive to deliver has in fact been communicated to the parties to the conflict. Madam President, in besieged northern Gaza, tens of thousands of civilians have been facing diminishing conditions for survival, which OCHA has described as a direct consequence of Israel's blocking of aid. Israel's ban of commercial imports, as well as increased looting due to total collapse of law and order, are further pushing the entire Gaza Strip into chaos and the risk of famine. All across Gaza, airstrikes go on. Not only Gaza, but the wider region, including the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria, remains on the precipice as well. Hezbollah is increasing its rocket attacks against Israeli population centers. And in Gaza, Israeli attacks against the hospitals and
I'd like to make 3 points. First, the deterioration of the humanitarian situation in Gaza is catastrophic and unacceptable. Famine is likely imminent in some areas, and the unthinkable hardship that millions of civilians, including children, are already facing in Gaza is set to get even worse as winter continues. As my Foreign Secretary reiterated last Monday to this Council, there is no excuse for Israeli restrictions on humanitarian aid. We need much better protection of civilians in Gaza, a huge surge in aid, and for the UN and humanitarians to be able to operate in safety. An immediate and unconditional ceasefire and the immediate release of hostages is the best way to achieve this. Second, as we have repeatedly said, the UNRWA bills that Israel's Knesset has passed are gravely concerning and risk jeopardizing the entire international humanitarian response in Gaza and delivery of essential health and education services in the West Bank. UNRWA is indispensable. No other agency can get aid into Gaza on the scale needed or replace its mandate to serve Palestinian refugees. Israel must ensure that UNRWA can continue its vital operations. Third, we remain deeply concerned by instability in the West Bank. The economic situation is dire. We urge the government of Israel to extend correspondent banking relations for at least 1 year, to immediately release withheld clearance revenues, and to stop settlement expansion on Palestinian land, which is illegal under international law. The rate of expansion is unprecedented, and it undermines stability and the prospects for peace. We have announced 3 tranches of sanctions targeting illegal settler outposts and organizations that have supported and sponsored violence against communities in the West Bank. Palestinians must be able to live without fear of violence or intimidation. Colleagues, we must continue to work together to end the wars in Gaza and Lebanon, to secure the release of all the hostages who are living in unimaginable horror, and to stop the suffering of civilians. Too many people have lost their lives. The region needs a lasting peace with a two-state